redefines the Bronx community. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative. For businesses, politicians, and government agencies, we offer targeted advertising solutions that drive results. Amplify your message. Reach the heart of the Bronx and beyond. Our platform connects you to the community. Learn more. Email info@bronxpost.com or call 718-892-5555. Visit www.bronxpost.com for breaking news and updates. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative.
Okay, welcome to Talking Politics. My name is Robert Press. I'm a reporter, as you can see by my official New York City press card. I write for the Bronx Post, which you just saw. Like this show, Bronx Post is part of Parrot Media Corporation. I also have a blog at www.100%.blogspot.com and Facebook pages 100% and what is going on in your local community board. My co-host is Anthony Rivieccio, who is the founder of Northwest Bronx Democrats, and he has a Facebook page, Northwest Bronx Democrats. The views expressed on the show are those of the host, any guest, or anyone commenting at the bottom of the screen, and not necessarily that of Parrot Media Corporation. Let's go to a quick weather report. I look out the window and I see it's clearing up, and the high should get to be about 40 today, with the temperature reaching 50 tomorrow on Saturday. And don't forget to move your clock back tomorrow night before you go to bed, as we will be entering daylight savings times and we'll be losing an hour of sleep. Now on Sunday, the high will reach 60 and it'll be 63 on Monday. And then Wednesday, the high is expected to hit 68 or maybe even 70. But then for next week, it'll go back down into the 40s. My co-host, Anthony Rivieccio, is taking care of some medical appointments and will not be on the show. My guest today is Irene Judah Hill, who is running for the 82nd Assembly District. Pardon me. I have a little cold myself, though. And Irene is a former Bronx Community Board 10 member, and if I remember correctly, she was the vice chair of the board. So can you bring on my guest, Irene, Mr. Producer? Good morning, Irene.
Good morning.
Did I mispronounce your last name?
Guanel.
Oh, yeah. And I was at the community board meeting several times, so I should have remembered it. And was I correct that you were vice chair of the board?
Yes, first vice chair.
Okay, so can you tell us a little more about yourself and why you're running for the assembly seat?
Well, I live here in the 82nd, and I'm running for the New York State Assembly because I believe government should work for the people it represents. I am a small business owner, a realtor, and a mother. And as someone who has spent years helping people navigate housing and financial decisions, I understand the real challenges families face. I want to bring practical solutions, transparency, and opportunity to the 82nd District so residents can grow, prosper, and feel heard.
Okay. Let me ask you a couple of questions, because one of the hot topics was the Bally's Casino, Hotel, and Parking Garage that will be built on part of Ferry Point Park. What was your position on the Bally's Casino, Hotel, and Parking Garage?
Well, I am not for it. I am for economic development. It's important, and the Bronx deserves investment and good union jobs. But placing a casino of that scale in the middle of a residential community on parkland, alienating parkland, goes against the character of our neighborhood. A project like that should be located in an area with strong public transportation and commercial infrastructure, so it can handle the traffic, the visitors, without disrupting local families.
Now, your opponent, or your hopeful opponent, Michael Benedetto, unless he retires before he gets to the election in November, Elliot was the person in the assembly who sponsored the alienation of parkland. And in the Senate, it was Natalia Fernandez, the state senator. So it seems like the area of Frog's Neck really doesn't have the right representation, because it appears that it's not appear, the community board overwhelmingly voted against it.
Exactly.
Councilwoman at the time, Christy Marmorato, was against it. But the Bronx Democratic Party, who was representing Bally's or lobbying for Bally's, they pushed it through their puppet, Michael Benedetto and Natalia Fernandez. Now, it's 20 acres that they alienated, and it may be more. But and Michael Benedetto also is on, I believe he's the education chair on the assembly. And we have mayoral control. And I'm the former parent leader. And I feel that mayoral control is not working. There's no real progression. What is your opinion on mayoral control?
I also believe that it doesn't belong with the mayor. I think we need to bring things back to the community. I know the community board is advisory, but if it is advisory, you should take their advice.
And hopefully this mayor will not kill the education system. And speaking of Mayor Mandami, he says he will raise the city property tax 9.5% if he doesn't get the increase on the tax on millionaires, which the governor says she's not going to do.
Right.
Now, as a realtor, what would happen with a 9.5% increase on property taxes?
Well, seeing that they're already struggling, otherwise the politicians would not be standing in front of restaurants and giving out food, right? So any extra tax, the congestion tax, property tax, all of these new taxes, the Connecticut taxes, are all hurting the small mom and pop businesses, the homeowners. We can't get stretched any further than what we are. I feel it as well. I have to go to 4 different stores to get groceries.
Now, we see a decline in the quality of life in the 82nd Assembly District, with cannabis stores opening up, whether they were legal or not. And I covered when Assemblywoman Jennifer Rakumar came to the 82nd and Michael Benedetto was there. Oh, yeah, I'm with her, or whatever, but it was her bill. And we were standing in front of 2 illegal cannabis stores. Now, I'm not saying that, I mean, it's legal now, and you're getting legal cannabis stores. But what's happening to the quality of life now in the 82nd?
As I'm going around speaking to neighbors and people who live in the 82nd district, everyone says the quality of life is deplorable. It is not what we bought into. We bought in this neighborhood because we liked that it was quiet, reserved, and consistently safe. Most people used to leave their doors open. We can't do that today. Your car is at risk just being parked outside. So safety and crime is up, and we have done this to ourselves by allowing the representatives to continue to make these decisions against our votes.
Now, there's one more project that was coming. I don't know if it's on hold or not, at Villa Maria, where the academy sold the residence of the nuns, and a developer is coming in and trying to put 84 units with 84 parking spots, and it's supposed to go 4 stories. Can you give us a little information on that?
Well, I've done a lot of research on that as a realtor, and unfortunately, they're not going to be able to do 84 units. It's listed as 83 units, but they're not allowed to do that. It's zoned R31, and everyone should stay vigilant on preventing that zoning from being changed.
Now, I'm almost at the end of this interview. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Well, I think that everyone should know that I've always been an advocate for the people of the community. So whenever anyone came up with a vote for Co-op City, sorry, that's Betty, for Co-op City, Frog's Neck, I always listened to what the community said, what they wanted in their community. And I will always vote with the community.
All right, Irene, I have to go into, we have, our country's at war in Iran right now, and I have a lot of world news and local news I have to get to. So I want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And let me get right into the national news with our war in Iran. President Donald Trump, in his first live broadcast, said he's authorized the United States-Israeli strikes on Iran last weekend that killed its supreme leader, the Ayatollah, and cast the region into turmoil. Monday afternoon, that the operation would last an additional 4 or 5 weeks, he said, and stressed that the U.S. has the capability to go far longer than that. And Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth did not rule out deploying United States ground forces in Iran. Israel is striking Lebanon, as it says. It has killed 31 people, including Hezbollah's intelligence chief. Greece has deployed 4 fighter jets to Cyprus after Iran struck a United Kingdom base there, used by the U.S. Qatar said it has shot down 2 Iranian jets, and the Pentagon says 3 U.S. jets were mistakenly shot down over Kuwait air defenses. This is during the beginning of the week. Lawmakers expect Trump to ask Congress for emergency cash to finance the war, on top of the nearly $1 trillion that Congress has already given the military this past year, according to Politico. And in the Gulf, crude oil supplies from Iraq and Kuwait could start shutting down, as we have seen in the past few days. If the Strait of Hormuz remains closed, U.S. gasoline prices are already above $3 a gallon. Wednesday, a United States submarine torpedoed and sank an Iranian naval ship near Sri Lanka, the first such United States attack since World War II. Sri Lanka said at least 87 of the 180 crew members on board died and 32 were rescued. The war has touched NATO for the first time, as Turkey announced the military alliance has shot down an Iranian missile headed for Turkey, and if Turkey does come under attack, it would mark a major escalation and could activate NATO mutual defense clauses. And our partners in England and France and Germany are trying to stay out of this, but if NATO comes in, they will be forced to come in. Iranian attacks on Bahrain, Kuwait, Israel, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. Power was out across all of Iraq. The human rights activist news agency said civilian death toll in Iran is now over 1,200. President Trump has said the war will end with an unconditional surrender from Iran. The oil crisis in the Gulf is escalating fast, as British officials said that a tanker was attacked off the coast of Kuwait, potentially a significant escalation if Iran or uncontrolled elements start attacking fully laden oil tankers anywhere in the Persian Gulf other than the Strait of Hormuz, even at the risk of an oil spill, then all bets are off, and it may prompt countries to stop loading oil on ships. The U.S. closed its embassy in Kuwait. Iranian missiles and drones went after Israel, Bahrain, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia. As I said, Iran has said its attacks will get worse in the coming days. Everyone from Azerbaijan to Sharika is trying to navigate the widening fallout. Meanwhile, the United Arab Emirates is considering a major step to choke off Iran's finances. Elsewhere in the national news, Kristi Noem is out as the head of the Department of Homeland Security. Senator Mark Wayne Mullen of Oklahoma will take over at the Department of Homeland Security at the end of the month. Noem will now serve as a special envoy for the Shield of Americans, Trump said, previewing an explanation for what that actually means. It'll be coming tomorrow. The motion caps off a rough month from Noem. Her department remains unfunded as Democrats refuse to back down on reforms they say are necessary to rein in federal agents she oversees, including those who killed 2 American citizens in Minneapolis. And Noem's grilling by both Democrats and Republicans before the House and Senate Judiciary panels didn't help either. What is this, Kevin? No, Kevin, there's no news on that. Today's jobs report was overwhelmingly disappointing. There's no other way to say it. While economists expected the economy to add 50,000 jobs in February. Today's release shows we lost 92,000 jobs instead. Job loss occurred in nearly every sector of the economy, including healthcare, and a sector that sustained job growth much of 2025 shed 28,000 jobs, largely because the Kaiser Permanente strike sidelined most of the 30,000 workers during the survey week. Even adjusting for the strike, payrolls would have been deeply negative. Before I go to my commercial, I'll just say that the Department of Justice will sue the Hochul administration over alleged bid rigging in the overhaul of New York's $11 billion Medicaid home care program, according to the New York Post. And states' Medicaid program is now the target of two separate federal investigations. And let me go to a commercial right now, and I'll come back with some other news. So take it away, Mr.
Imagine a media platform that reshapes the conversation, empowers your voice, and redefines the Bronx community. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative. For businesses, politicians, and government agencies, we offer targeted advertising solutions that drive results. Amplify your message. Reach the heart of the Bronx and beyond. Our platform connects you to the community. Learn more. Email info@bronxpost.com or call 718-892-5555. Visit www.bronxpost.com for breaking news and updates. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative.
Okay, welcome back. It appears that New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani continued to condemn the U.S. and Israelis' military strikes on Iran on Tuesday, while acknowledging the brutality of the Iranian government's regime after initially declining to do so. Mamdani, a Democratic Socialist, is among a number of left-leaning Democrats who forcefully condemned the Trump administration over the military strikes, aligning with the left's ardent opposition to foreign intervention in the Middle East. Those concerns are only further underscored by existing tensions with the Democratic Party around the Israeli military's actions against Palestinians in Gaza. Mamdani's comments Tuesday brought him more in line with more moderate New York Democrats like Governor Kathy Hochul, who has criticized the Trump administration for striking Iran without congressional approval, but at the same time also highlighted Iran's authoritarian regime. Some critics have attacked the mayor over his initial response, including former Mayor Eric Adams, who has repeatedly emphasized the violence the Iranian regime wrought upon its citizens. If you are running interference for that regime, you are not anti-war. You are morally hollow. You are choosing tyrants over victims, Adams wrote on X. Tweeting over Mamdani's initial statement, New Yorkers stand proudly and unapologetically with the men and women confronting the evil, defending our country and the entire free world. Mamdani again emphasized that his primary responsibility is to keep New Yorkers safe while addressing the backlash on Tuesday. Is much as I've shared my thoughts when asked about the federal government's actions as well as the actions of the Israeli military. I've also focused my time and efforts in being in consistent communication with our police commissioner as well as emergency management officials, he said. And the reason he's got to keep in touch with these people is New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani hasn't been granted his security clearance from the federal government, roughly 2 months after taking office. He lacks access to highly sensitive information as the U.S. and Israel launched military strikes on Iran, an extended attack that could have ramifications in the city. The federal security clearance, typically granted to mayors and police commissioners, has historically given recipients access to classified briefings on threats as well as other national security measures that impact the country's largest city. Mandami's approval process remains in progress as early as of early March. Several senior leadership members in the administration do have federal security clearance and have been able to brief the mayor on what's going on. The NYPD confirmed that Commissioner Jessica Tisch does have federal clearance, and she's not the only one in the department. The latest update about the mayor's clearance comes several days after the U.S. and Israel attacked the strikes on Iran, killing the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khomeini on Saturday. Now, Mandami has condemned the attack, as I said, describing it as escalation of an illegal war of aggression. And he said they want that the people there want peace. Monday, Mandami said in the New York City Police Department is increasing patrols at sensitive locations out of an abundance of caution. Now, former Mayor Bill de Blasio didn't receive his federal security clearance from the Obama administration until October, nearly a year into his term. Let's see how long it takes Mayor Zohan Mandami. As far as the battle in the 11th Congressional District, keeping a Republican district or making it a Democratic district, the Supreme Court on Monday sided with Republicans in the ruling that the boundary of the 11th Congressional District in New York City does not need to be redrawn for the 2026 elections. The outcome is a victory for Republicans in a national tug of war over redistricting that could determine control of a closely divided House of Representatives, where Republicans currently hold a razor-thin majority. New York Republicans and the Trump administration had sought the High Court's intervention. Qualifying for congressional elections in New York began last week. Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis praised the High Court for halting what she said was an attempt to manipulate our state's courts to use race as a weapon to rig our elections. I thank the justices who stopped the voters on Staten Island and in southern Brooklyn from being stripped of their ability to elect a representative who reflects their values, she said in the statement. In New York, a law firm affiliated with Democrats had argued that the Staten Island district should be reshaped by replacing a small section of Brooklyn and replacing it with a chunk of lower Manhattan. That swap would have taken some Republican-leaning neighborhoods out of the district and replaced them with more heavily Democratic districts. New York State Republican Party Chair Ed Cox praised the Supreme Court order and criticized Governor Kathy Hochul and other Democratic leaders for allowing the case to proceed. The latest New York City Police Department statistics announced that fewer shootings, incidents, shooting victims, and murders is the lowest in recorded history for the first 2 months of the year. Major crime declined 8% citywide, with decreases across every borough in February and 1,100 fewer reported crimes year to date. Public housing sees safest start to year in recorded history, with fewer shooting incidents, shooting victims, murders, and robberies. And this comes from the New York City Police Department website. Burglary was dropped nearly 20% in February 2026, down year to date to the lowest level in recorded history. Retail theft fell 24.7% in February 2026, despite traditionally increasing during winter months. Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch announced that the NYPD delivered the fewest incidents, shooting victims, and murders in recorded history. For the first 2 months of the year, for January and February combined, the city had 83 shooting incidents and 97 shooting victims, beating the previous all-time lows of 92 and 105 set in 2025 and 2019, respectively. So far this year, the city has recorded 32 murders, beating the previous all-time low of 38 set in 2018. Now, in the Bronx, by precinct, for the first 2 months of 2026, crime went down 10% in the Bronx, and by precinct, the 40th precinct had no change in crime. The 41st precinct was down 25.23%. 42nd precinct was down 16%. The 43rd precinct was down 21.13%. The 44th precinct was down 17.58%. The 45th precinct was down 7.26%. The 46th precinct had an uptick, though, of 3.11%. The 47th precinct was down 5.81%. The 49th precinct was down 99.21%. The 49th precinct was down 22.59%. The 50th precinct was down 0.51%. And the 52nd precinct was down 0.25%. What the police commissioner, though, has left out is that reported subway crime is up 18.5% for the first 2 months of 2026. I said reported crime because I asked a former police commissioner during the Bill de Blasio administration how much crime goes unreported. And he hemmed the hard, and his answer was that there is no way to measure how much crime goes unreported, but he added that much crime goes unreported. And then Mayor de Blasio turned to him, said a few words under his breath that we could not hear, and we were sitting a few rows away from him. Now, what crime goes unreported, you may ask? It is a crime involving a car that is small enough that if reported to the police, the person's insurance rates would go up. So it doesn't get reported. Something that a person may realize is missing and doesn't report it as a crime. Some domestic disputes, or it could be that a person is too embarrassed to report that they were a victim of a crime. Let's go to tax increases now. As we were talking about a proposed property tax increase by Mayor Mandami, he's pushing state Democratic lawmakers to push higher taxes on New York City's wealthiest residents, setting for a high-stakes battle negotiations with Governor Hochul. Democratic Socialist Mayor Zohan Mandami is pressuring very publicly to boost taxes on people who earn $1 million or more, as well as profitable corporations, by threatening a property tax hike if he didn't get permission to raise rates. His ally, Hochul, is in firm opposition to broad-based tax increases during an election year, as she negotiated a $263 billion state budget that she is trying to keep drama-free. The upcoming fight over tax hikes, in part, will underscore how lefty and moderate Democrats are navigating this political moment in which restive voters want fixes for their deep-seated pocketbook problems. New York City Mayor Zohan Mandami has his own costly agenda to pay for, including free buses, and he needs to close a $5.3 billion budget gap, which could be higher with the bad economic news. Questions, though, remain. How hard will Democrats and legislators press Hochul on tax hikes? What role will Mandami, who did not attend the Tax the Rich rally last month in Albany, play in pressuring the governor he endorsed? And will lawmakers also try and grant the mayor power to raise the city income taxes? There are potential compromises as some Democrats are quietly discussing, such as corporate income tax rate that they believe would be an easier sell to voters. Then again, increasing taxes on well-off New Yorkers has sustained political support. In the latest Sierra University poll, which was done Wednesday, continues to show good news for Governor Hochul as she runs for a second term. The Democratic governor leads the Republican Nassau County Executive, Bruce Blakeman, by 20 points, 51% to 31%. It's a slight decrease from January when Hochul led her likely opponent by 26 points. The poll also found the governor with a 46% favorable rating, a slight drop from her high of 49% in January. The poll of 805 registered voters was conducted from February 23rd to 26th and has a margin of error of plus or minus 4.5 percentage points. That's a real representation of New York State. All a million people, they polled 805 voters. Now, police have arrested a second person in connection with a snowball fight in Washington Square Park, where members of a large crowd pelted two New York police officers with snowballs after last week's historic blizzard, department officials have said Wednesday. Eric Johnson, is facing charges of obstruction of government administration. One of the snowballs that he threw hit one of the officers. Wilson lives in East Harlem and turned himself into the station house in West Village around 9 a.m. Wednesday, according to 2 police officers. Pardon me. Wilson's arrest follows that of 27-year-old social media influencer Gustan Kobani last week. And I'm going to just end it right here as we're out of our time here. So, Mr. Producer, I want to say thank you for you to watch as I'm dying here of my cold. And I'll see you next week with my co-host, Anthony Rivieccio, here on Talking Politics.
In a world where the quality of information available to poorer communities is doctored, tainted, and sometimes regressive, where the words fake news have come to mean other people's opinions, it is vital to rely on news platforms with journalists who have feet on the ground and can report the truth. New York Parrot, a New York-based national and global news outlet, is changing the narratives of media operations. We focus on the news that matters, like self-empowerment, entrepreneurship, finances, health, security, politics, and more. We strive to curb violence, racial and economic discrimination, and to promote peace and socio-economic development of multiculturally diverse world. As we give voice to the people, we also give your business a voice and make it heard. Get your products and services off the ground by advertising on our fast-growing platform. With so much of daily visits to New York Parrot, you can't afford to be invisible to prospective clients on the websites they trust the most. Our posts reach millions of people across the New York State and around the world. Advertising on our new site will unlock an audience of thousands of potential customers on your doorstep. New York Parrot is born to prosperously speak tomorrow for the voiceless.
Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern